Welcome to another episode of Unconditioned Mind. Unconditioned Mind is a project of Awakened Global, which is a movement that seeks to contribute towards gender and racial inequality. In this season, we're dealing with leadership, interviewing seasoned leaders so that we can unpack these issues that we are confronting in our country. I've got an exciting guest for you today, Kganki Matabane, who doesn't need any introduction. Welcome, Kganki. And can we maybe start by, just telling us who you are, where are you now, and then we'll delve into the interview.
Thank you very much, Ausnongu, for the invitation. We don't take it for granted. I'm from Limpopo. I used to be a teacher, but I taught for 1 year. And I sort of then decided I'm changing. I studied cost and management accounting. Later, I changed to business administration. So at the end, I did an MBL at UNISA. I've worked for different institutions, Anglo-American, Transnet. But the job that I liked most at the beginning was working for Starterfords. You remember Starterfords?
Yes.
Closed down. And there was a branch in Eastgate.
Yes.
So I was working there Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And
while you were starting?
Yeah. And they basically, I learned a lot there because they were taught us about customer service. To say, when you see someone dressed in a certain way, you shouldn't treat them according to how they look. You must treat all the customers the same. And I've lived with that until today.
Wow.
And before I came to the Black Business Council, I was the Chief Operating Officer at Centec. I even tried to assist taking Centec into the continent. So I've been to a lot of countries in the continent, especially where the war ravaged ones, because we wanted to rebuild their technology infrastructure. So I've been to Central African Republic, South Sudan, those places where you
don't want to go.
You are accompanied by soldiers all the time.
Wow.
And I'm also a board member of the BRT in Ikuruleni. And I'm mentioning it because it's one of the things that I like, because I am sort of teaching taxi owners corporate governance, leadership, implementation. It was a struggle at the beginning because for them it's either them or the highway. but we've developed a good relationship now that they are trying their best to understand that these things, you have to follow a process.
Yes.
And the process protects you later when someone comes and say, but why did you do this thing? You can always say, but I've done this because that were the reasons and then so on. So yeah, I think I had a very good life so far.
Yes.
And a very good career. And when I joined the BBC, I think the BBC was in a serious crisis. And I think from the result, I think I've tried my best to bring the dignity back to the Black Business Council. I think at the moment we are taken seriously by almost everyone in the country and outside the country. It's not easy, but I think we get in there. We're not where we're supposed to be, but I think we're getting there.
Wow, what an amazing career. You've had so many opportunities. Now, I suppose in the position where you are in a position to really bring value because you've seen it all in terms of your life generally. Very impressive. I like this thing of customer service. These companies, especially around Black people and all of that, you go into these spaces, whether it's a restaurant or you can go into a jewelry shop. They look at you at the door. They're like, what would you even be interested in here? They don't even know you just because you are black. They don't even know you. Restaurants also, I mean, I always, tell managers, if we are there at a restaurant with a white friend, they'll always come and ask the white friend, how are you? Are you happy? Blah, blah. I always say, we're all customers here. You must not do this. You must treat all your customers the same. Because all the customers are paying your rent here. It's not just white customers who are paying your rent. But I mean, I'm just happy that there are companies that are aware and are training their people. I hope, most people can actually do that. And I always, hope that manager will wake up and realize that what I'm doing is actually wrong.
Yeah, it's not even in restaurants. So maybe just to give two examples. When I started working, we went to a restaurant with my friends and we bought this brand of alcohol. And then the waiter came to us and asked us, do you know how much this thing is? Can you afford it?
Yeah.
And it was a black waiter. We have to call him aside and start to lecture him that you don't do these things because you are assuming firstly that you can't afford this, and this is not even expensive anyway. And you don't ask the same questions to white people. In my travels in the continent, I will go with someone who like maybe 4 levels below me, who's a white person. When I get into that meeting, the focus will be on him because for some reason, when you are with a white person, people assume the white person is your boss.
Yes.
It's only later when the person said, no, but the person who can take a decision is that one, that they feel embarrassed. And it happens all the time with black people. Even in South Africa, you go into a meeting with a very junior white person, but people, for some reason, they assume the white person is your boss.
Yes.
So we need to do a lot of introspection as South Africans, especially from a mind point of view.
Yes.
Your example, when you get into these exclusive shops, people just assume, they look at you, probably they look at what you are wearing and how you are dressed. And
it's a Saturday, so you're not dressed as if you're going to the office.
Yeah, and then they assume that this person can't afford this. But it's a mental issue. I think it's one of the victories of Verwoerd.
Yes.
Verwoerd managed to do something with black minds. And we see it all the time. When an 18-year-old young white person comes driving a Ferrari here, the assumption is that he's a smart business person. But a 50-year-old black person driving the same car, the first assumption is that he's stolen the money.
Yes.
They don't assume it's his money or her own money. They don't even know you've been working for 30, 40, 50 years, holding senior positions, or you even own your own companies. But the assumption is they've stolen the money. Again, it's because of what Verwoerd did.
Yeah.
They managed to conquer the black child's mind.
Exactly. And maybe let's go there. Because I'm really just battling with the past happened. Before 1652, we didn't believe that we were black and inferior until the settlers, came up with this idea. But after all that has happened, we found freedom. Why are we still struggling with our identity? And because even if, you are successful and you are in corporate, there's always this sense that I have to survive here. I'm being done a big favor. As a result, we don't support one another. We're afraid to support one another. Those, for instance, in financial services, they've got so much power to empower black people. You may be, the CEO or the CIO or, in a powerful position. And people are just afraid to empower others because of this issue of, I'm lucky to be here. I don't know. I mean, I'm lucky to be here. But when you're also looking at the slow pace of economic transformation, you can blame the past, you can blame white people, but look at the Indians. Okay, they didn't, their situation was not as bad as our situation as Africans. But they seem to be moving forward with creating wealth, all over the place. And I always wonder, what's wrong with the African? Why can't we just seize this moment and find who we truly are? Because we know that it's whatever opinions of people about us are not true. We know we've proven it, as you even share your career here today. What do you think we can do? What do you think the problem is?
Yeah, I think we attribute this issue into two things. The first one is self-preservation. The second one, I think, is the inability to own the economy. And then they are like related. Because I get a lot of calls from young professionals who are working in corporates, and they are very frustrated. And they'll tell you, I've spoken to the chairman who's black, the non-executive director who's black, the CEO is black, the executive director is black, the CFO is black, but they can't help me. And I'll then have to sit them down and say, obviously there will be, it's not all the black people. There are other black people who are brave. But majority of blacks are scared. And I think starting with the economic ownership, the ownership of the economy, most of the black people feel like they've been invited into someone's economy. So if you are invited in my economy and I leave you at this corner here, I don't expect you to find you at that corner.
Yes.
Just like in this house, this office. If I'm here, I'm sitting here now, you're not expecting to meet me in another office. Because this is your own space.
Yes.
If you find me in another office, you're going to check me out.
Yes.
And then it has happened, there've been a lot of, not a lot, but there've been blacks who have been checked out because they were found in the wrong space. It's because of ownership. If you don't own anything, you can't do much. So if you own this place, you decide where to buy from, which is procurement. You decide who to hire. You decide who to train. You decide basically everything. So until and unless we own the economy, we are forever going to find a lot of people scared of taking decisions. Because if you take a few black people who really own the economies, you'll find even their kids work there.
Yes.
Because it's your own company, you can hire whoever you want to. But the people who are running other people's companies, you can't hire your kid there. They'll fire you for nepotism. But also you've got this other bigger problem of people protecting the little that they have. Yes. For example, now, as you know, and all of us will know, black economic empowerment is under serious attack. We would have expected black people who benefited and who are currently benefiting from the system to defend it. But no one is doing it. There are very few people who are doing it. But the rest of the people who are benefiting are very scared because they are saying, hey, I'm going to lose my house in Camps Bay. My kids at Hilton are going to be chucked away. The big car that I'm driving and the big house that I stay in. So they're doing self-preservation, which is short-sighted because we're supposed to be solving this problem long-term for it to be sustainable so that our kids and our next generations don't have to fight the same battles we're fighting.
Exactly.
It's fine, you can protect your house in Camps Bay, but that's not sustainable. Your grandkids may still lose everything, and then they're going to be subjected to the very same system. Definitely, I know your cousins, your nephews, and everyone else are not empowered as you are. So they're still going to struggle. So I don't know what need to be done, but we need to continue to make sure that people are conscious of their own decisions?
I suppose it's, as you are saying, if you are a CEO of a powerful, whatever, listed company, because in your mind, you think that you are working for, white people own this business. But you find that the majority of the shareholders, it's pension funds, and who owns pension funds? It's largely black people. But because we've got this mentality of it's a white company, and I've been invited, as we are saying, we don't wake up and realize that I'm actually not working for a white company, because the shareholders here are pension funds, and the pension funds are mostly owned by black people. It's black people's pensions, But we've been socialized to believe that we're being done a favor and so on. So that's why I suppose, organizations like the Black Business Council and all these professional organizations, we need to just maybe make this as a project of conscientizing people about who they are. Because when we begin to, no one can tell you who you are, you have to know who you are, right? Because when you know who you are, nothing can shake you from that place. When I started working, for instance, because I was raised by parents who really emphasized this thing of, you are in this country, but never believe what they say about you. You can do anything, So when I walked into corporate and experienced racism and sexism for the first time, there was just this vehement opposition of someone defining who I am. So I used to walk around the passages saying, your opinions of me don't define who I am. I know who I am. And this is what I've carried, right through. And why I went to start my own business was because I wanted to show that I can do anything, And you are right, in your own business, really, you own it, you do anything. So I think we need to make it a mission that we conscientize ourselves, because once we find that stuff, like I found it very early, everywhere I went, even when I was a 19-year-old, walking into my father's panel beating shop, no matric, nothing. And then I'm being bullied by 2 white managers who were running that place. I was like, I will not have it.
Yeah.
You will treat me with respect. So from that moment on, and I did it in such a way that I just earned that respect immediately. But of course, you have to perform. You cannot be performing and then so on. So it's a big topic that we need to address. What actually saddens me,
Yeah.
What saddens me is after 30 years, we have trained people in many sectors. So for me, we've got this foundation of people who have been trained. We should be establishing new businesses now, from this cohort of people who've trained over the last 30 years. But it's still this self-preservation. People are scared to go out and do something. I was trained as an accountant for 3 years. But from that foundation, I had enough to believe that I could have my own practice. So I don't understand after 30 years that we don't have large numbers of black people who can go into various sectors where they've been trained, they've got networks, they know the stuff and so on. But anyway, what do you say?
Yeah, there are many other factors. So the late Lord Indlovu used to say, majority of black people, when you hire them, the first thing when they get into a company, they are looking at, they are asking, who's my white boss? So I think somehow we don't understand power. I don't think we understand how to use power. You can blame Donald Trump, but whether he's taking the right decisions or not the right decisions, he knows power. He knows how to use power. He knows the United States almost owns everything. They pay probably more than half of the subscriptions at the United Nations and everywhere else. So with that power, you have to have a certain control. But our people, I think, for some reason, I don't think we understand power. Even from government, you see it from even with government. Government can't just take decisions to say we're empowering Black people.
Yes.
So one of the reasons why Black people are not starting companies, and what we've realized is lack of two things: access to funding and access to the market. Because if, for example, you go to a client representing a big firm, let's say you are representing a big accounting firm, the market doesn't doubt you because you are carrying that big name firm. The very same person, if tomorrow they come as themselves,
yes,
the white market is not going to be receptive of the very same person that they personally know. So then that also then adds to Black people being scared. But if we had a decisive government that will then decide we're going to take the pension fund money and fund Black business.
Yes.
But also after funding them, you give them access to the market. Because, for example, the Black Industrialist Program, it has succeeded to a certain extent, but the bulk of the people who were funded end up closing the shops because they don't have the market. There's an example that the IDC always give, that the IDC have to fund someone 500 million who had a contract. That company, before they funded it, had a contract at Transnet, which is state-owned, using state money. The contract at Transnet, after they funded this business, came to an end. It went out on a tender. It was won by a different company.
Yeah.
Now the person who was funded now has got a 500 million problem. IDC's got a 500 million problem. But all these things are state things, state money, state company. But they couldn't just decide, no, but we're giving this tender to this company because it's funded by the state. So there's a lack of decisiveness in the state. So people are scared because they've seen other people who try to go on business.
Okay.
And then they lose their houses, they lose their families. And then people are saying, but I rather stay in this company, even if they're giving me a hard time. But at least I know, end of the month, I've got my 10 rands. With my 10 rands, I can self-preserve, take my kids to on holidays, and all those type of things. But I fully agree with you. We need to keep on conscientizing our people. And I always tell the people that when I meet them, like CEOs and others, to say, you need to fund your own struggles. While you are still in these big companies, fund BBC, fund the BMS, fund the Abasas, fund the APSIPs, so that they can be that faceless organization that speaks to your issues. Because I can tell you, almost every month we get a call from a Black person frustrated by the system. Maybe they got into a JV, the white people siphoned out the money, now they're left with the debt. Some of the people, even who work in corporates, when they're in trouble, they come to us. But when they're having a good time, they don't want to associate themselves with us. Again, is that mental issue that we need to conscientize our people that you shouldn't be scared to be seen with a Black organization. You are Black. You shouldn't be seen afraid of supporting a Black organization. The Africans do it all the time. The Jews do it all the time. The Muslims do it all the time. It's only us.
Yeah.
And then you'll know, for example, if you hire a senior executive who's Indian in an organization,
in no time,
2 months down the line, all the executives reporting to that position are Indians.
They're not shy to do that.
But hire a Black person,
yeah,
you'll have to justify why you must get a Black person, because now it looks like the Blacks are taking over. People are scared. So we need to find a way. How do we stop Black executive from being scared?
So I suppose, I know we always say that, going back to this government, although we talk Black empowerment, sure, we've got the laws and so on, which have been very helpful, to a large extent. But it's not supported by a clear strategy of how we're going to empower these Black people to the level where Black people run the economy, as you are saying. There is no clear strategy around that. We're fortunate when we stepped out and started our own businesses that there were people who were champions of transformation, like Mama Stella Stau, who followed with tangible strategy, of opening the markets to us, as you are saying, which were closed to us because as Black accountants, we're knocking on doors and these doors were just not opened because, there was a white person on the other side of the door. Even in state-owned companies, the first thing Stella did was to change the management into Black management because that's the only way you were going to be in a position to empower other Black people. So what do you think we should do now? I mean, we always have these strategy meetings with government as BBC and these other organizations, and we get excited when you see you taking a photo with Cyril Ramaphosa on the stairs of the union buildings. And we're excited that, something is going to come out of this because we need, this collaboration between government and Black business that can come up with a strategy. I mean, you talk about Dangote, he is where he is today because he was supported by his own government. Yeah. So what do you think is the problem? Why can't we go get into a room and come up with a strategy?
So there are two important developments to try and deal with those two issues. So access to funding, because we tried to learn from the Afrikaners. When the Afrikaners took over, they made sure that they will have funding. Hence, we had Volkskas,
yes.
You've got the trust. We had trust banks, even Sanlam itself.
Sanlam, yes.
Sanlam was formed mainly to fund Afrikaners' empowerment. But we came 1994, and later came with the BE Act, but we never had instruments to support its implementation.
Yeah.
Hence, we're working with the Minister Dau now on the Transformation Fund. And the Transformation Fund will emphasize on helping Black people with own contribution. Because, you're trying to buy this building, it's 100 million. They want, banks usually will give you 60%. You must then come with 40 million. Where are you going to get it? Most of the Black people won't have the 40 million sitting there. So we at least Minister Dau is pushing for that. We're working with him. We're busy doing the corporatization, the corporate governance, because we believe that the board members of that institution must be people who have self-actualized. There must be people with credibility, presence, people who have achieved.
Yes.
So that they are not going to be applying for funding themselves. The second one that is also very, very important to deal with access to the market, especially from a state point of view, is the Public Procurement Act. We fought for that for like 10 years. Finally, before the elections, the president signed it into law. But unfortunately, again, because of political will, National Treasury is the one that is supposed to develop the regulations to enable the act to be implemented. It's more than a year now after the president signed this into law. Nothing has actually happened. The minister hasn't said anything. We've been engaging with the National Treasury to say, but what's stopping you? And then the reason why I'm mentioning that, in the Public Procurement Act, we've managed to include a clause, and that is a primary legislation that says you can set aside state procurement for different groups. So you can decide that out of a tender for transport in South Africa, 40% I'm setting it aside for Black women. So that 40% is only Black women who will compete for it.
Okay.
Then you know whoever wins will be a black woman. You can set it aside for black youth, people living with disabilities. So you can do what the Nigerians have done, for example, supporting Dangote. Because you'll have a legislation that will
allow you
and allow you to that. Because currently the current procurement legislation does not allow for you to set aside anything.
Okay.
And then unfortunately, I think again, because black people are scared, I suspect maybe the Minister of Finance is scared because the Afrikaners are taking the president to court specifically for that set aside. But we're saying, let the court case run its course. But let's finalize the regulations here so that we can implement.
Yes.
The court case will find us
on the way.
But now it looks like people have decided that they are not necessarily going to do anything. And the sad thing is that the 14,000 kilometers transmission lines of Eskom, they have been procured using the previous legislation. So you can't set aside anything for black people. By the time the regulations come, if they come in 2-3 years' time, procurement for that 14,000 kilometers will have been done. And you are never going to, in the next 100 years,
do that again.
Yeah, you're not going to do that again. The same would happen with Transnet procurement, where they are trying to give black people the opportunity to run certain lines. They are using the current legislation, which means that you can't again set aside anything for black women, for black youth. White companies are going to win it. And again, that thing will never happen again in our lifetime. The same thing, Eskom has been buying transmitters or transformers. And I think they bought probably maybe 10 or so billion rands of transformers. They bought them from not even white companies in South Africa. They bought it from overseas companies. And we're talking like localization, which also we managed to put it in the Public Procurement Act. So by the time the Public Procurement Act is actually implemented, the big opportunities will have gone. So black people will then have to wait for the crumbs.
Yeah.
But again, it's lack of decisiveness and lack of understanding power. Because for me, if I was the Minister of Finance, I would have stopped these things and say, no, let's stop this procurement. Let's finalize the legislation so that we can at least be able to measure how much we've given to black people.
Yeah. So, I mean, this thing is also to have to be a two-way thing, as we are saying. You know, we can fight these battles with government and institutions and so on. But we also need to prepare black people because you also need them to succeed. We don't want these stories of, someone started, was funded, and then they lost everything. So what are we doing to make sure that, as we fight these battles, but we've got a cohort of black business people, industrialists, who are equipped to succeed?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing because also I think we have a situation where a lot of black people again don't want to get involved in organizations like on a voluntary basis. Because I've been involved in the BMF for a long time and I've learned a lot of things, project management, from volunteering. Because then you run a project on your own and then it succeeds. That gives you experience that no one is going to give you in a formal environment. And then you can use that as the very same experience to run a company. So we've been trying to get into a project where we're trying to call as many black people as possible to say, please come and involve yourself, come and volunteer in these black organizations, because the experience that we learn there is invaluable. You may not realize the time you are learning it, but later you realize, but no, man, I can do so many things. And that then prepares you. But we also have on a monthly or twice a month, we have sessions where we come and we invite people to come and teach people how to run businesses. Almost like to say, if you're running a business, you must expect that you must pay SARS, you must do this, you must do this. So we're trying to equip people so that by the time they get into business, they are not shocked. Because we ran a workshop the other time where we asked people, I think we had like 200 people, we asked them, but when was the first time you actually heard about SARS? They said most of the time is, and they were running business, those people. They said it's when you receive a letter from SARS. And you realize, sure, that money was not mine. Because we don't teach entrepreneurship from an early age in South Africa.
Yes.
And I think we have been having conversations with government and the ministers to say, why can't we start entrepreneurship from even grade 0? So that a child who's there knows, if I don't want to be working for someone, I can start a company. But these are the disadvantages of starting a company. This is how you go starting a company. Because majority of the people who end up starting companies, they're not necessarily starting companies because they wanted to start companies. Either someone gets retrenched and something happens, then they are forced because now they don't have an income. Then they start a company, but they don't necessarily know where to start. They just get a contract there, and then the contract there, and then later they realize, sure, I should have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And by that time sometimes it's very late. It can even cause your company to close down. As you have seen a few companies closing down. So we're trying to say, how do we, where we are, teach people entrepreneurship, so that people must not look on social media and think entrepreneurship is glamorous. Because what you see there is people posting next to their cars, people in other countries overseas. You think it's papa in place. It's not. Most of the business people I speak to on the 20th or the 25th, their blood pressure is like high because you've got employees that you need to pay. The client has not paid you. Government, for example, hasn't paid you. You've got a serious challenge. But you only learn those things as they are happening.
Oh yes.
While you're supposed to have learned them somewhere when you are planning to say, but I need to know every month I must manage my cash flow. Instead of taking the money and buying that car, no. So I must keep the money in the bank so that at least I can pay my staff, because staff members don't care.
Yes.
You've hired them based on their CVs, their experience. You can't then give stories end of the month and start to say, no, but I haven't been paid. And no.
Yes. Yeah. I suppose, we always ask this question of entrepreneurship because we know that, every powerful growing economy is growing because of entrepreneurs, and other countries, even when you look at the Asian countries, they have the clear strategy of skilling their people, infusing them with entrepreneurship, creating institutions where they can find the funding, opening the markets to their own people first, and so on. And because we don't have that ecosystem in South Africa, that's why we're really just struggling with entrepreneurship. But I'm glad that at least you recognize that and you are doing your bit, in infusing our people with entrepreneurship. Just share with us around BBC, what have you achieved since the beginning? And it was a bold move to start BBC because, again, there was this whole thing of depending on the white business organizations. And I remember when we made this decision that we're not going to depend on them, we're going to start our own thing. It was the most brilliant thing. So what has been achieved so far?
I think there are a few things that have been achieved. As you know, the BBC is a mother body of black associations and black business. So and the main job of BBC is to lobby and advocate for policies. So it's to lobby for the policies to be developed. Once they are developed, is to lobby for them to be implemented. Obviously, once things are there, sometimes it becomes difficult because now the implementation part is not necessarily yours. As you know, the broad-based Black economic empowerment came from the BBC via the BMF. The Black industrialist came from the BBC. Actually, it was actually a concept document developed by the professionals within the BBC. I think when Kuku Kumalo was the vice president, she was driving that process at the BBC. Even the formation of the small business department was lobbied through the BBC. Currently, as I was saying, the Public Procurement Act came through the lobbying of the BBC. But again, the challenge is always on the other side. Once it's there, like the Small Business Development Department is there, but it's not even supported, because when we were lobbying for it to be established, they were envisaging it to be like one of the most powerful department. Because anything to do with small business from all the other departments was supposed to be even transferred to it. Not Department of Finance running their own small business thing, Department of Defense, Department of Home Affairs. We're envisaging that everything else will then be dealing with small business will be dealt with by the Department of Small Business Development. But it has not happened like that. So hence people will come and say, but what did the department deliver? Which is a valid question.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it does not have the powers that we envisage it will have. The BE Commission also came from the lobbying by the BBC. But unfortunately, the BE Commission does not have teeth. It doesn't have teeth because we're lobbying for it to be like a competition commission type of institution. But the state has been dilly-dallying to convert it into a competition commission, like where its findings will be binding. It can find companies. It doesn't happen. So, as I said, we get complaints every day about fronting, sophisticated fronting, Black people having been robbed of their shares. Even this morning, I've been dealing with a case where someone was buying a gold mine and they were buying 26%. They managed to raise the funds. Now, the other person decided, no, I'm not going ahead with the transaction. And they've already spent money. So when you send that type of a case to the competition commission, it was going to work but we're sending it to the BE Commission. They don't have even enough employees to deal with these complexities. The few also who are there are not necessarily from a technical point of view. They don't have the technical capacity to deal with this, because you need to understand complex fronting. It's not as straightforward as taking a gardener and making them a director. It's very, very complicated, because sometimes, because of desperation, some of the Black people, when they get into these deals, they also even assisting the white people how to do it. It's only later when they realize this thing's not working, then they come running. And then we have to deal with it. So you need a capacitated BE commission that will have accountants, lawyers, actuaries, everyone who can then be able to look at this thing and say, but this was fronting. But we don't have it. So people are coming to us. We're trying to help them. But it's not easy.
Because the state doesn't have the capacity.
Unfortunately. So we do have institutions that we lobbied for them to be there, including the BEE legislation itself. It's not necessarily fully implemented even by the state. There are a lot of state institutions who don't even report on annual basis their transformation. And the BE Commission is the one that was supposed to be going to them and say, but as the state, you're supposed to be the first one to report, to set examples for the private sector. So if you at the state don't even respect your own legislation, who then must respect it? But you need a capacitated be commissioned to do that. The current one, unfortunately, it doesn't have the capacity.
It's this lack of vision, I suppose, because there's no vision behind this black empowerment that we're talking about. Because when you don't capacitate, then state institutions, China is succeeding because everything is capacitated, right? The state is behind growing China's economy, empowering their own people to be in the forefront. And now they're leading in many things because of that vision. That lack of vision is really at the center of the slow progress that we see all around, even in the continent, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe the challenge is our politics is measured in 5 years. So majority of the politicians, when they get there, they are only measuring themselves over 5 years because they don't even know whether they will be there in the next 5 years or not. But it's that lack of vision, because if we had a vision to say, as South Africa, we're moving from A to Z, it doesn't happen. It doesn't matter what happens in between.
Yes.
Everyone else knows we're going to Z. But now you will see it. For example, a government department, a minister will come today. For example, if they've got entities, SOCs, they will appoint board members. Once that minister leaves, the new one who comes fires all the board members, and then they appoint their own new people, as if this is a different government. even if they're coming from the same party, it's like it's a different party. But it's because there's no vision. Because if there's a vision, you know I'm going there. It doesn't matter who comes in. It shouldn't matter who comes in, like in China.
Yes,
it doesn't matter who the president is. Everyone knows we're going to Z. And if you're not going to Z, you get dealt with very harshly.
Yes.
So that you don't get the destabilized and defocused. Everyone focus on Z. We're going to Z. Everyone must go to Z. But unfortunately, we don't have that vision. We were supposed to have an economic policy, which is the National Development Plan 2030. When was the last time you've had even the president speaking about NDP 2030? Well, like a few years from 2030, but no one is even talking about it. So it looks like we don't necessarily have an economic policy as a country. Other countries do have. China will have it. America will have it. So we've been speaking to government about these things, lobbying them for to develop them, but ultimately the responsibility is for them to do it.
I suppose, it's being short-sighted. We feel like visitors in our own economy as Black people, because we don't have a state or leaders who have a vision of true empowerment. So we'll always be, on the back foot of economic development, because we're not making that progress. Because once we get to a place where Black people are the ones who are running the economy, this thing is over.
Yeah.
It's over. And even our government would not be apologetic, trying to nurse white fears, because that's what we're doing as this government. We're nursing white fears because they are running the economy. But if we see a shift, Chinese are the ones who are running the Chinese economy, Europeans are the ones who are running the European economy. So because we don't have a vision of getting Black people to be running the economy, because if we had that vision, then we'd have all this institutional support, and people would also feel confident because they know that there is a state that is on an agenda and is delivering on that agenda, not in word, but in action in terms of the institutions and things like that. Because we've been talking about a Black bank for so long. What is difficult in establishing a Black bank?
And unfortunately, people will always say you are actually blaming other people. But if you look at the history of South Africa, Nelson Mandela days, we understand it was more reconciliation than anything else. But if you look at the presidency of different people, the Black people who are currently now owning sustainable businesses were created during the presidency of Thabo Mbeki, because he had a vision of wanting to create the black middle class. He had a vision of saying, I'm going to create black billionaires. So if you look, probably maybe 95% of the people who are currently billionaires and multimillionaires were created during that time. We've never created other people post that. Even the PIC of that time, the pension fund of that time, was very intentional. You'll recall when Sasol refused to appoint black non-executive directors, what the President Mbeki did. He took them on. And that then gives confidence to anyone else in the ecosystem to say, that is the vision, we're going to support it. The PIC funded a lot of people. Even the other financial institutions, they funded a lot of black people to create proper companies. And those companies are still sustainable even today. But unfortunately, we've lost it since that time. We have not
no momentum from there.
Yeah, we've lost momentum since that time. Like now, we all know we can utilize the African bank to create a black bank, because African bank is owned by other banks, is owned by Reserve Bank, is owned by the PIC. And those people don't necessarily want to own it. It's an opportunity that we can then say, if we had that momentum, if you have the political will, to say PIC, find black entrepreneurs who can buy the bank. And we don't lack people. We've got people who've been running banks.
Yes.
Who've been running other people's banks. You go and fetch those people and say, this is a bank, we want you to own it, but we also want you to run it.
Yes.
And then you fund them. But because of lack of vision, it won't happen. Hence, we're even struggling with getting a state bank. Forget about the black bank. We're the state, we run in the state, but you can't even get a state bank.
Which China has done many times.
And then if you establish a state bank and you run it very well, and you run it even learning from the Afrikaners, it can be the biggest bank in South Africa.
Exactly.
Because you just decide any state employee, whatever capacity, municipality, SOC, government, must bank there. They can bank in another bank is fine, but the money must get in there first.
Yes.
For their cars and houses, funding, you must be funded from there. It will become the biggest bank in South Africa, but there's no political will, unfortunately.
Sure.
But we need to keep on conscientizing people to say, let's try by all means and get everyone to be conscious that until this economy is owned and run and managed by black people, even this democracy that we have is not sustainable. You can't have 93% of the population, because blacks, Indians, and coloreds are 93% of the population. You can't keep on excluding them from the economy and hope the economy will grow. It won't, because they are the customers. If they thrive, the economy will thrive, because then you have more customers who are thriving, will be able to buy goods and services. The economy will grow, but you can't expect the 7% of the population to carry the
whole economy.
No, it's just not possible. It's just logically it doesn't make sense.
Wow. Yeah. And we've been talking about this, and we hope one day, leaders will step in, will have this vision, because vision is everything. Unfortunately, without a vision, we can't get anywhere. Okay, we've run out of time. Just maybe give us your closing remarks on this issue of economic transformation.
Yeah, I think we would like to encourage all the black professionals, black entrepreneurs to get involved in their own country. We have, for a long period, for 30 years, 31 years now, we've basically outsourced the running of the country to politicians. And unfortunately, they get lobbied by everyone. If they get lobbied by white people, they're going to implement white legislations. If they're getting lobbied by foreigners, they'll do the same, because we have taken a back seat, outsourced everything, and we are just passengers and watching whatever happens in our economy. So it's important that we, instead of sitting and complaining, let's get involved. And it's only through involvement that we'll be able to ourselves be able to help government, because it does not necessarily mean government has got the capacity to do everything.
Yes.
It needs all of us to have interest in our economy and our country, so that we can develop this economy, create jobs, and grow the economy, and make money and create wealth at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. Thank you so much, Kganki. I mean, this has been a really powerful interview, and I'm hoping that this message, will go out and people will start to think and introspect and say, how long are we really just going to be complaining when we're watching our country going down? And even those political parties that were leading the country are in a GNU now, which even diminishes our chances of ever getting to a place where Black people are actually fully running the economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and keep it up.